guys? It's Benny. Please join me on my daily routine of going to an obscure deep state government website to check in on left-wing money laundering around the globe. Today, let's try USAID.gov. USAID, remember, they're the guys who like put up tents or bring bread to people who are starving in Africa, right? Oh, and it's gone. And it's gone. Ladies and gentlemen, the website for USAID completely taken offline, along with the X account for USAID, literally deleted. Although, of course, some of their work still remains. You can see here, foreignassistance.gov. The billions of dollars that America has given to the countries that hate us. Why so much money for sub-Saharan Africa? A lot of Americans there to help out? Huh? America, the only country that taxes its own citizens and sends that money somewhere else. Any other countries tax their citizens and send money to the United States? Anyone? Nothing? Well, it sounds like that's not a good return on investment for the American taxpayer. And so Elon Musk has officially shut down USAID. But oh boy, the rabbit hole goes much, much deeper than that. Elon Musk shuts down USAID with Trump's approval hours after taking control of it and locks out 600 staffers overnight directly into my veins. Elon Musk and President Trump has shut down the embattled government agency tasked with humanitarian relief overseas, as they agree the organization was beyond repair. The billionaire first buddy led a civilian review of the federal government's Trump's go-ahead and decided to shut down the U.S. Agency for International Development. You thought aid stood for giving aid to someone, like bread or shelter or clean water? No, 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 no. It's international development. The staff were shocked when they woke up on Monday morning with emails instructing them to stay out of the agency's D.C. headquarters. Into my veins. It became apparent that it's not an apple with a worm, Musk said, talking about USAID. What we have here is just a ball of worms. You've got basically to get rid of the whole thing. It's beyond repair. We're shutting it down, he said in an audio appearance on X. Why would you shut it down? Well, Carolyn Levitt at the White House detailing exactly what USAID was doing. Let's just say it's not giving little loaves of bread to starving children.
Live coverage.
Through USAID over the past several years, these are some of the insane priorities that organization has been spending money on. $1.5 million to advance DEI in Serbia's workplaces, $70,000 for a production of a DEI musical in Ireland, $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia, $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. I don't know about you, but as an American taxpayer, I don't want my dollars going towards this crap, and I know the American people don't either, and that's exactly what Elon Musk has been tasked by President Trump to do, to get the fraud, waste, and abuse out of our federal government.
Ah, yes, this crap. Isn't it wonderful to hear people inside of our federal government talk like you and me, with the same values as you and I do, without this kind of like, I don't know what, like these NPC, like highfalutin arrogance, this John Kerry style of, oh, we're so much wiser, so much smarter, so much more advanced and developed than you. Yeah. What's actually happening here, if you want to talk about development, is the development of a CIA cutout organization in order to influence countries all around the world by leveraging them with your tax dollars. So the deep state and the World Economic Forum globalists can get what they want in every single country, and they use the straps off our backs as American taxpayers to get it. All the shocking ways that USAID spent your money. Let's go ahead and look at this organization that has more money than the CIA and the State Department combined. Why does USAID get so much money? $30 billion budget. Goodness gracious. Let's go ahead and check it. HIV research about transgenders in South Africa. Millions to COVID in China to create literally a COVID lab. Serbian LGBTQ plus group. There you go. Look, these are your American taxpayer. Do you think our current leadership was part of like a satanic, demonic, cultish empire that they were trying to create and destroy Western civilization? Like, look no further, ladies and gentlemen, than what they spent their money on. Here we go. Electric vehicles in Vietnam. Oh, okay. Got it. Because that's what the Vietnamese need. after we bomb and strafe their country to smithereens for virtually no reason at all. We give them electric vehicles. Trans care clinics, LG alphabet initiatives globally, operas in Colombia, Peruvian trans comic books. The Peruvian trans comic book program received $32,000 from Anthony Blinken. Efforts to expand atheism abroad. Well, my point, I suppose, has been proven. The U.S. has spent $500,000 to expand atheism in Nepal. Why would you wish to expand atheism? Why would you wish to do any of these things with the American government's money? It doesn't make any sense at all, and it seems like it could really end ruinously for us, and it did.
Peter, what's going on there?
Well, it's been run by a bunch of radical lunatics, and we're getting them out. USAID, run by radical lunatics, and we're getting them out, and then we'll make a decision.
Elon Musk saying
into USAID, it became apparent that what we have here is not an apple with a worm in it, but we have actually just a ball of worms. And so at the point at which you don't merely, like, if you've got an apple and it's got a worm in it, maybe you can take the worm out. But if you've got actually just a ball of worms, it's hopeless. And USAID is a ball of worms. Mm-hmm. There is no apple. And when there is no apple, you've just got to basically get rid of the whole thing.
Get it, rid of, and call it a criminal organization, as Elon Musk has done. Federal procurement data shows that USAID approved over $6 million in contracts just on Friday. That's in spite of President Trump ordering them to freeze all spending. They're defying the president. Why are they funding organizations with 7 CIA directors on their boards to train up hundreds of people in censorship? This is the kind of stuff that USAID was doing. Because USAID was a radical left-wing political psyop. What people think paying taxes like, what paying taxes is actually like, throwing money into a flaming fire. But this meme isn't actually justified in how bad the taxpayer money is spent. Because what we found out was that USAID was actually paying for the creation of COVID-19. USAID was paying the Wuhan laboratory $40 million. Dr. Fauci in charge, channeling that funding, even though it's illegal to do gain-of-function research in America, they were doing it in China. They created COVID.
14, there are riots in, it's called the Maidan Rebellion in Ukraine, which we're not told that we are financing those riots. The newspapers never told us, our government never told us. USAID, which is a CIA front, put $5 billion into funding those riots. Those riots lead to a coup d'etat against the first democratically elected government of the Ukraine. It was a government that refused to choose sides and to say, we're going to be on the side of the West. So we wanted them out. A month before that government is overthrown, Victoria Nuland, who's the part of the centerpiece of the neocon ideology and who is now a high-level official in the State Department, has a secret call with the U.S. ambassador, which is tape recorded and is now public, which anybody can go and look up, where she is picking the new cabinet for the Ukraine, which is which is a U.S. Western cabinet. So they're picking the new government a month before the old government is overthrown.
Is that how democracy? Is that democracy when Victoria Nuland picks your government?
Well, that's the point. Is USAID doesn't really do. And the CIA don't do democracy. The CIA has overthrown, I think, 83 governments between 1947 and 1997. That's a third of the governments on Earth, and most of them were democracies.
What about our own government? Was COVID-19, the release of that virus, an overthrow of the American government? Damn right, you bet your ass it was. Let me get this straight. Dr. Fauci, USAID spent over $40 million in taxpayer funding to support Wuhan working on bat coronaviruses before COVID-19 outbreak, and the patient zero, the first guy who got COVID, was somebody who was directly being funded by Dr. Fauci. Got it. Well, ladies and gentlemen. Now, 2 years ago, why I said my pronouns were prosecute Fauci. Incredible. This was happening, of course, back to when Dr. Fauci started doing this, Dr. Fauci's backdated pardon was 2014. Just a coincidence. Would you look at that? Here's the actual money going from the American taxpayers into the creation of COVID-19 and the overthrow of governments all around the country, all around the world, correction there, including Ukraine, who, of course, doesn't know where any of the money went. So it's just basic money laundering. Here's Zelensky.
Дивіться, я коли чую, і раніше чув, і сьогодні ми чуємо від Сполучених Штатів Америки, що Америка дала Україні сотні мільярдів, 177, якщо сказати більш точно. Така звучала точна цифра, яку підтримували або голосував Конгрес, тощо різні організації. Дивіться, я як президент воюючої країни вам говорю, ми отримали більше 75. Тобто 100 мільярдів з цих 177 або 200, говорять навіть де.
We don't know where $100 billion went. No idea. We don't know where $100 billion went. I bet Elon got to DC and asked where all the money's going and nobody could answer. So he asked how the payments are being made, and it turns out there's one department that does them all. Obviously, he's like, great, we're going to go there. That's how crazy that no previous administration even thought to ask this. Elon Musk saying, yeah, exactly. This is how you stop fraud and waste. Well, now it turns out that Marco Rubio has been put in charge of USAID, head of the agency. USAID will be merged with the State Department and cut virtually all of its workforce. It will remain a humanitarian aid entity, but it's going to be under new management. This dude who says this about USAID.
Do you know what eating cabbage can do to your heart? Cabbage is a cruciferous vegetable that resembles lettuce and can be red, purple.
Well, look, I mean, my frustration with USAID goes back to my time in Congress. It's a completely unresponsive agency. It's supposed to respond to policy directives of the State Department, and it refuses to do so. So the functions of USAID, there are a lot of functions of USAID that are going to continue, that are going to be part of American foreign policy, but it has to be aligned with American foreign policy. I said very clearly during my confirmation hearing that every dollar we spend and every program we fund, that will be aligned with the national interest of the United States. And USAID has a history of sort of ignoring that and deciding that they're somehow a global charity separate from the national interest. These are taxpayer dollars. And so I'm very troubled by these reports that they've been unwilling to cooperate with people who are asking simple questions about what does this program do, who gets the money, who are our contractors, who's funded. And that sort of level of insubordination makes it impossible to conduct the sort of mature and serious review that I think foreign aid writ large should have.
What a beautiful moment to just like appreciate that literally daddy's home, adults are back in charge, like people are watching your back as the American taxpayer, as the wage slaves who fund all of this garbage. USAID is for starving children. USAID funds $20 million for the creation of Iraqi Sesame Street to promote inclusion in Iraq. Ron Paul, all you need to know, saying audit USAID, then shut it down. Well, they did it. And guess what? All the right people are seething and screaming and shrieking like demons outside of USAID. Never saw any Democrat go and protest, literally ever over the last 4 years, anything that the federal government did. But now they're holding up anti-Doge signs. Hysterical, unhappy, gray-haired cat ladies who smell like mothballs. USAID down, ladies and gentlemen. They're screaming about it. Why did USAID get such a large portion of the aid that went to Ukraine? Allocations $183 billion for Ukraine, but a lot of it went to USAID. Some of it went to the Defense Department, but like exactly what do they do there? Again, Zelensky doesn't know. He has no idea. We don't know where the money is, he says. This is money laundering, and that's what we've now learned. It's all money laundering to left-wing causes. It's money laundering into left-wing politicians, into their little organizations. People like Bill Kristol go and start Defending Democracy endowment organization. They get $50 million from USAID, and then Bill Kristol does zero work. They host like a workshop, right, that nobody watches, nobody cares about, and then he takes a $20 million salary It's just basic money laundering. USAID, like the National Endowment for Democracy, are well-documented CIA fronts that are designed to manipulate other countries' internal politics for the benefit of DC elites and no one else in the United States. Both agencies are wrought with destruction and cannot die soon enough. Nayib Bukele, who's the president of El Salvador, saying effectively saying we don't want USAID. We don't want the aid. We don't want it because we actually understand what you're doing here, right? How stupid do you think we are? Most governments don't want USAID funds flowing into their countries because they understand that much of it will be used to fund opposition groups, NGOs, political agendas, and destabilizing movements. At best, maybe 10% of the money reaches real projects that help people in need. But the rest is used to fuel dissent, finance protests, and undermine administrations that refuse to align with globalist agenda. Cutting this so-called aid isn't just beneficial to the United States, it's also a big win for the rest of the world. It is a big win for all of us. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a fifth column organization that has been used to terrorize American citizens and also terrorize Donald Trump. Holy smokes. Did you know that USAID has given twice as much money as George Soros to the organization that creates Soros prosecutors? So as much as we go on and on about George Soros, it's actually USAID that was funding the President Trump prosecutions. It was you and me with a gun to our head funding the prosecutions of Donald Trump, the candidate that the vast majority of the American public voted for and wants as president. They were stealing our money to try and put him in prison or kill him. This is what these monsters were doing. And what I mean by kill him is, well, criminally underfunding and understaffing his Secret Service, making sure that Donald Trump was a target. So, an explanation from Mike Benz is necessary here to explain this absolute rat's nest of USAID and why it must die, ladies and gentlemen. We're super thankful for Elon Musk for finally getting out the chainsaw.
What is USAID? When people hear the name USAID, they focus on aid. They focus on thinking like it's humanitarian work. But aid is not actually in the name of USAID. USAID stands for the United States Agency for International Development, not aid. It's not a charity. And international development is simply capacity building. It is local and regional capacity building done across the whole world, i.e. internationally. The primal id in USAID, international development, is about capacity building of assets that can be used by either the Pentagon, the State Department, or the CIA for their own activities. So if you're the Secretary of State and you were asked by the National Security Council or the President to do something in a different country, overthrow their government, stop the passage of a bill in a foreign country's legislature, how would you do that? And the first thing that I said is you would look at the assets that already exist in the country. Do we need new assets in addition to the ones that we currently have, or are the existing assets, can they achieve this simply by giving them enough money, giving them enough resources, giving them enough training, giving them enough support? One of the main ways that capacity building would be financed would be through USAID. USAID would say that it's doing something, funding a hospital system, funding universities, funding civil society organizations, funding media institutions, funding independent media in the region. Sorry, there's something in my eye. Independent media in the region on USAID payroll. And those institutions, those assets, would then be bigger and more powerful and more capable, more capable of serving the State Department's goal, aka advancing U.S. national interests. USAID has a bigger budget than the State Department, over $50 billion. It is a bigger budget than the CIA. The entire intelligence community only has about 72 billion. So that's the CIA plus the 16 others. And USAID has a bigger budget than the CIA and is almost the size of the entire intelligence community combined. That is how important USAID is to American statecraft. It is an intelligence community, a State Department, and a Pentagon assistance organization rolled into one. I just copied this from the USAID website. USAID carries out U.S. foreign policy, advances U.S. national interests, by promoting broad-scale human progress. At the same time, it expands stable, free societies, creates markets and trade partners for the United States, and fosters goodwill abroad. The operative phrases here are carries out U.S. foreign policy. This is not charity work. This is not aid. This is cynical, self-serving purposes. And what is it seeking to do? Free societies, open societies. Why does USAID want other countries to be open societies? Because that's how you get the influence in. If a country is a closed society, they're closed off from USAID influence. We cannot capacity build our assets there. Closed societies box USAID out. China is a closed society. That is why we have not been able to topple the government of China, despite having tried for 100 years now almost. We have not been able to topple Putin from Russia. Why? Because Russia is a closed society. Like China, they kicked USAID out. It is not an open society. And so the USAID can't just take over their entire media ecosystem by funding 100 different media propaganda outlets in the region to sway hearts and minds. And remember, that's what this is. It's hearts and minds and cash. That's what soft power is. They call it hearts and minds work, but it's cash that does the moving of those hearts and minds, especially of the leaders of the movements.